This week, the train is leaving the station. Or is it? The hypervisor will protect you, maybe. The best thing about flippers are the clones. Also, Flipper Zero as an interrogation tool. Threats are commercial and open source. Who is still down with FTP? AI bug hunters, firmware for Russian drones, merging Android and ChromOS, protecting your assets with CVSS, patch Citrixbleed to Rowhammer comes to NVIDIA GPUs. I hear Microsoft is hiring Chinese spies, Gigabyte motherboards and other UEFI vulnerabilities, McDonald's AI hiring bot. You want some pie with that? All that and more on this episode of Paul's Security Weekly.
This is a Security Weekly production for security professionals by security professionals. Please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to all the shows on our network. Broadcasting live from G-Unit Studios in Rhode Island, it's the show where exploits run wild, packets aren't the only things getting sniffed, and the cocktails flow steady. It's Paul's Security Weekly.
Whenever we talk to security teams, one thing is clear. They are under more pressure than ever, facing increasingly complex and higher stakes threats. That's where Flashpoint comes in. Flashpoint empowers organizations to make mission-critical decisions to keep their people and assets safe. Flashpoint combines cutting-edge technology with expert intelligence teams, empowering security leaders with the critical data and alerts and analysis needed to act before threats escalate. And with Ignite, Flashpoint's award-winning threat intelligence platform, you get access to real-time insights, finished intelligence, and analytics all in one place. Learn more at securityweekly.com/Flashpoint. You can't protect what you can't see. Everyone knows that, right? That's why Run Zero gives you total visibility across your internal and external attack surfaces. Worried about unknown and unmanageable devices? They got those covered too. Run Zero also helps you illuminate all types of exposures, even the elusive ones. They go beyond CVEs to tackle the hard stuff, even 0 days. No agents, no authentication, just crazy deep data about your assets and exposures that focus on the risks that actually matter, not an endless sea of CVEs. Try it free. Visit securityweekly.com/Run Zero to get started. Coming to you from the secondary Hacker Syndicate Studios, this is Paul's Security Weekly, episode number 883, being recorded on Wednesday, July 16th, 2025. I'm, of course, Paul Sidorian, joined, not to my left, but remotely, Mr. Larry Pesce.
Howdy. Yeah.
What's up, Larry?
We are all remote this week.
We are.
Because reasons, right?
Well,
many reasons.
Yeah. I mean, the studio also doesn't have AC, and the internet was kind of spotty. The internet broke, and then I fixed the internet, and then it broke again, and I was like, nope, don't trust you today. See ya. And I came home.
Too hot. Too hot. Yeah, it feels like 100 in Rhode Island today.
Yeah. Yes. And it was 94 in the studio with a lot of humidity. So, Mr. Josh Marpet is here with us. Josh, welcome.
Hello. I'm operating from inside instead of my office as well because it's friggin' hot out.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mr. Lee Neely.
Hey, it's good to be here. It got nice to see all you guys and enjoying the nice weather we have.
Yes. So hopefully Sam Bound is here with us. Sorry, I wasn't going to forget Sam. I got distracted.
Hey, glad to
now
see you.
I'm watching the Discord, so I'm distracted. So I got to get my bearings. Okay. So Sam, it's good to have you, my friend. You can watch this show live Wednesday evenings, 6 p.m. Eastern time. There is a link that we put in Discord that I have right here. And to join our Discord, you can go to securityweekly.com/Discord. Join our Discord server. The PSW channel will have the link. I tend to put the link in all the places I can. But then you can watch the show live. How about that? And we pay attention to Discord while the show is happening, which is awesome. Right, Josh? Are you monitoring Discord or am I?
I'm pulling Discord up right now because I forgot I turned it off. So give me a second. I'll be right there.
I have Discord right here as on one of these screens.
One of the screens.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yep.
Let's see. Well, we should probably start talking about trains. I mean, why not? The link that someone sent me was the Twitter thread, which I did not put, unfortunately, in the show notes. I put it in our internal chat somewhere. I see it now. And the quote from the Twitter thread that talks about, was it 10 years? Was it a 10-year journey in disclosure?
I see you 10 and raise you 10 more.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like ridiculous. But one of the tweets really, I think, sums up, it sums it up, and then we'll dig into details. So the author asks, so like, how bad is this? The author states, you could remotely take control over a train's brake controller from a very long distance away using hardware that costs sub $500. You could induce brake failure leading to derailments, or you could shut down the entire national railway system.
Mm-hmm.
In terms
This
of
read
train, like that doesn't get any worse.
this read like a freaking like you could have read this 30 years ago. He
Yep.
would just happen to have stuff on him. He was playing around on the train, not trying to hack anything, and he noticed there's a signal there, and he went, "What is that signal?"
I like how we're not trying to hack anything.
Yeah, he wasn't trying to do anything. He just noticed a signal and went, "Oh my god, that's unencrypted in the clear control signals for the train brakes from the caboose."
Yeah.
Or the thing they have instead of the caboose.
The Fred. The
Fred.
Fred replaced a caboose.
And the only thing that is doing any sort of security on that signal is no encryption, all in plain text. It's got a hash.
Mhm.
And not a very good
That's
one.
not true. That's not true, Larry. This is a frequency you're not allowed to transmit on.
Okay, then. We're good.
Well, yeah, then problem solved.
So-
no one can hack it because you're
so-
not allowed to transmit on that frequency.
Yep.
So-
All right.
So,
wanted to see
so set the Wayback Machine to, what was it, 30 years when they came out? Oh, I think it was more than that when they came up with the Fred, and nobody knew how the protocol worked. Nobody had that. It wasn't $500 to get the stuff.
The
It was
posted
fine then.
speed limit regulates how fast people should drive on the road
Yes.
as well.
Speed enforced by radar. Yes, indeed.
I just wanted to see Larry's face when I said that, and it was perfect. It was just like, oh god.
So
Yeah, I mean, back in those days, Lee, the only people that like had access to even receive those signals were folks like amateur radio operators.
hey,
that
we
might have been
resemble
able
that
to do that.
remark.
Yeah, and they were probably of the. I was going to say most of them were probably of the, ethical variety, and they weren't going to transmit there. But then again, you're not allowed to transmit there, so it's fine. It's totally fine.
So, I mean, because that was one of the responses, is that the familiarity was part of the barrier to entry, which at the time it was. Not so much anymore, but
Yep.
And I'll tell you that for train enthusiasts, the effing Fred is not flashing. They don't like them as a train purist. I don't mean the folks that work for the railroad. I mean the folks that like trains don't like Freds.
Yeah, we
Well,
should
they like
also
a caboose
say
instead.
don't try this at home. Like, please don't hack the trains because
Yeah.
reasons, safety.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't something to be
You,
played around with.
Because
just to be
before
clear,
you had
you will go to jail.
Yeah.
Because there was a caboose, there was a person in the caboose, there was communication with the cab. That was the way it worked.
For
So-
largely like braking and stability, like they mentioned the term that you don't like to mention if you do anything with trains is derailment, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
And Josh, I'll throw this out there. How do you know you will go to jail? Because clearly that there is some distance that these signals can be done from. And if you're able to do this at a reasonable distance and issue these signals to a train, you don't need to be on the train. You could be nearby a train. And now we're left to some pretty robust investigations as to who was in the vicinity of those trains that
So,
had
Larry,
the
what you're
technical
saying is-
capacity to issue those signals. So,
It's okay to hack trains and kill people as long as you don't get caught.
no,
No,
it's not okay.
No,
It may be possible.
Yes. We're
So
not going
I
to test it.
will-
We're not suggesting that you hack a train and injure
No.
or kill people. That's the
I-
thing we're trying to
Not at all.
We're going to get quoted out of context and it's going to sound really bad. What we're
Mhm.
trying to say is do not look at this research and then go try and hack trains, make them derailed,
Right.
and cause people to die.
I
That
will
would be bad.
point
That's
out-
not why we do. It's not why we do what we do. We do what we do to protect people and impose safety. And the
And have
the
fun.
author in the original researcher, right, has been working with numerous bodies, including ICS CERT and one of the railway organizations. What is it called? Association of American Railroads, AAR. Although they did a lot of hand waving, it sounded like, oh, there's no vulnerability here. This is not the vulnerability you're looking for. Which, obviously we want this to come to light. We want it to be public. We want the issues to be addressed so that we have safety when we take trains.
I will
Josh has been trying to say something.
point out a couple of interesting pieces of trivia in terms of your point, Larry. One, yes, you can do this from off the train. You can do this from depending on how you're set up, a reasonable distance away. The pieces of trivia are that railroads are one of the few entities in the U.S. that are allowed to have a police force armed with fully automatic weapons, and there's no need for them to get any permissions. It is automatic that they get FA weapons, and they can set up any kind of police force they want. It's built into practically the constitution of the railroads. Okay,
Yep.
That's number one. And number two, since they are typically federally funded, if you start screwing around with radio frequency stuff on or near or about a train, the FCC will be high. We have trucks in your neighborhood. Don't do that. They will send trucks out. They will find you, and they will be unhappy with you.
And well, FCC will find you again. This attack is likely a very short-term attack, and if they are already not on location,
Correct.
it'd be difficult to find you. They will need to resort to other methods, such as which cell phones were connected to this tower nearby, within reasonable radio range of
which
said
they will
trains.
subpoena 5 seconds later.
Of course they will.
It'll take them 5 seconds
later. It will be done.
Yeah.
Because you will
But then it's too late, and this is the issue that I want to dig into is like why can't we address these issues, right? The issues with the radio protocol that allows the rear of the train and the front of the train to talk to each other to control braking. Is that the way I understood it?
So
yes. Here's the problem. And I'm going to take this for a second, guys. And Sam and Lee, I know you're going to go freaking on this, but security through obscurity was common back in the day, 20, 30, 40 years ago. Door locks ran Wiegand protocol, okay, which was an unencrypted, almost Morse code-ish protocol.
Still do.
And Zach Franken used to have his vampire tap thing, which could just slurp up all the freaking door codes coming from your RFID card.
The ESP key and the BLE key.
Cars ran, CAN bus, which is it can
Still
transmit. Still do. It's unencrypted. So it was effectively, and the train has the Fred box with its unencrypted, hot or not, whatever system. And so it's simply that 30 years ago, 40 years ago, these systems it works, it's good. You need thousands of dollars worth of equipment to see it, hear it, play with it, transmit to it, fuck with it. So obviously it's no big deal because nobody's going to spend this kind of money. Well, unfortunately now it costs $100, $200, $300, even $1,000 is not as much as it was back then. Okay. Right. And so it is security through obscurity. And we've also got a lot more people going, this is fun. Let me dig into this crap. So that's why, but it's persisted through decades, and I'll shut up and let Sam and Lee and Larry talk.
So the thing I was going to say is that actually, although they've known about this for 20 years, one of the things that has to happen is the standard that it's based on has to be updated. And you know how fast standards bodies are. Actually, they've gotten faster than they used to be. I got to give them that. But it still takes a bit. That is underway. So I'm hoping that they're going to maybe expedite now. But that's that, till they get a standard, because then they won't be interchangeable anymore. They'll have to, and who knows how much they're going to cost to replace how many million Fred devices are out there. But that's what it's going to take, and then it's doable. It's going to take a while.
Yeah, I mean, this is just a problem with industrial security. They intend this stuff to go for 20 or 30 years, and cybersecurity changes so fast that, of course, most of this stuff is always badly out of date. And as far as the proliferation of hackers, I think we should look at Paul's story 8 while we're here, because it's the same issue. Dual use twos, hackers, penetration testers.
Is that
I
the
mean-
Expo AI driven? Yeah.
Mhm.
But Sam's right. There is a correlation between those two because as technology evolves, hackers figure out a way to use that technology to achieve hacking things, right? I remember it's kind of similar to when 802.11 first started appearing and we had Wi-Fi. When it first was released, the gear was really expensive, not just to create a Wi-Fi network and have clients on a Wi-Fi network, but then if you wanted gear to actually intercept and collect those radio communications, it was really expensive. Now, fast forward 25 plus years later, we can go to AliExpress and for $1 get an
Mhm.
ESP32 that has Wi-Fi and Bluetooth enabled on it. I mean, that's in 25 years how much the technology that's fully programmable and you can
Exactly.
do whatever you want with it, right? Well, I
Well-
guess there are some limitations in the ESP32. Those
Huh.
researchers broke that. And anyway, that's just a side note. But
I will tell you that 14 years ago, I was hired to map an airport's Wi-Fi, as in where is the signal strong, where is the signal weak, where are all the different SSIDs from the vendors and from the airport itself and everything else. And and I'm like, okay, I don't feel like spending 25 grand on one of the big packages of Wi-Fi mappers. So I built my own, and it cost me about $1,000. Actually, no, I think it was $2,000 about 14 years ago. But I had a dozen different antennas using, at the time, I was using somebody's built-in software and somebody else's mapping software, and I kludged together a thing, and I got them a beautiful map, and it worked really well. Now, Ubiquiti has a Wi-Fi man dongle for $99 that'll do it all. Just clip it to your belt and walk.
oh, really? I
And
didn't know they made
with the laptop.
such a yeah. That's
Oh
cool.
yeah, the Wi-Fi man dongle is $99 on Ubiquiti's unify.ui.com or something
Yep.
like that, or store.ui.com. And you just clip it to your belt and walk. It's battery powered, and it'll show up on your laptop as a heat map. Like these days, it's trivial. And that's not 20 years, 30 years, whatever. It's the technology has evolved so much, so fast. It's terrifying. Wonderful.
Well, I think, software-defined radios, 3D printing, all those things have made, huge strides. And
Yeah.
software-defined radio is what technology has evolved to allow us to go, oh, we can intercept a lot more radio frequencies and decode all the protocols much cheaper and much easier. Cheaper because technology has evolved. But Larry, correct me if I'm wrong, easier because there's a lot more code samples and people that have done the first piece of that really hard work that then others can build upon.
Yep.
Which is the case here because the author of this research talks about a project which I have not yet checked out, but there's a GitHub with some tools on it. What was that called? Oh, that was linked in an internal Slack where we were talking about this. We need to just go get a train for our research team at Closium. That'd be awesome. Thanks. Anyone wants to donate to that? Peyote, P-Y-E-O-T. Larry, have you seen that?
I have not.
Implementation of the radio protocol from 7 years ago, according to one of my coworkers. I'll put it in the Discord. But the author whose Twitter thread I posted did talk about someone who presented at DEF CON and created this tool in the midst of the disclosure process. I don't know where he says that. He said that. I read that somewhere. I'm not hallucinating. I'm not an AI hallucinating.
No.
I haven't checked out this tool, but oh yeah. So slides from DEF CON 26, 7 years ago. Yeah, and his slides are in there. So someone did actually talk about this. This is the whole thing that fascinates me when we cover security research and specific vulnerabilities and classes of vulnerabilities is the progression of it. It's sometimes technology has to evolve and then someone's got to do the initial research and then someone else has to build on that. And then there needs to be academic papers. Then there needs to be a tool on GitHub that sort of works. Then there needs to be someone that takes it to the next level and can talk about it and publish a tool. And then you start to see attackers go, oh, we can include that in our own toolkits. Then it gets in sophisticated malware. Then I feel like the next step is anyone can include it in their malware. It's just something that you can buy or put together yourself if you're tech savvy enough to go, I want to include this functionality now. That seems to be where we are with hacking trains. So, but there is no fix. Like CISA recommends strange things, I think, like minimize network exposure for all control system devices and or systems, ensuring they're not accessible from the internet. My understanding is you need to be in RF range of a train, and you can manipulate this protocol wirelessly. And if you know what commands to send, physically impact the train. Did I get that? That's how it works, right?
Mm-hmm.
So interesting, CISA recommending that we minimize network exposure. This really isn't a network. This is an RF thing, right? Because it's not really a network. It's just radio signals.
Yeah, I mean, but you can build a network out of radio signals.
Well, hence Wi-Fi.
Yep. Exactly.
So like in this case, it's
Bluetooth.
It's a protocol. I guess you could say it's a network if there are
It's supposed to be
nodes
just
that are
a
talked to.
straight shot from the caboose to the engine type of thing. It's not supposed to.
Yeah, right. But
Sorry,
I mean,
Paul, go ahead.
we could argue that it is a network, right? If there are nodes that use a protocol to communicate over a medium, whether wireless or physical, it's technically a network. But in any case, you know what I'm getting at, though? This isn't like your IT network. This is manipulation of radio frequencies on a train. So I mean, they're not. It's not a bad recommendation. It's just not pertinent to the research that was presented. And the rest of their recommendations are for more traditional IT networks. Locate control system networks and remote devices behind firewalls, isolating them from business networks. And when remote access is required, use a VPN. You can do all of that, and you should. However, it's not going to help protect the trains from this attack that uses radio frequency. So what do we do?
So there's some discussion about a replacement for the protocol. And this one was coming up with Signal Group. Adrian Sanabria asked some pretty good questions like, is this just U.S. trains?
Mm-hmm.
And I'd venture to guess that it's probably not just U.S. trains. And regardless, the protocol that is intended to replace this, which I haven't looked at all to verify anything about security, is 802.16t from the IEEE. And the IEEE is a worldwide standards body. Same one that does Wi-Fi and I was going to say Bluetooth, but they don't. That's different. But the same ones that do Wi-Fi and Ethernet and all those types of things. So, I mean, the only solution is to upgrade to something that's more secure. And is the new protocol more secure? I don't know.
But then you got to update all the trains. This is like the hotel keycard problem.
Yep.
I mean, there's probably not as many trains as there are hotel key-carded doors in all the hotels.
Debatable.
There's a lot of trains, but there's probably more doors inside of hotels that need to be updated than trains.
Valid. Okay.
But there's still, to Larry's point, there are quite a few trains. I mean, it's one of the oldest forms of transportation, right? It dates back a long, long time ago. And updating all of those trains, I would imagine, would require physical access, like a physical person to go swap out hardware. Can we speculate? Probably swap out hardware, right?
Depot maintenance. They don't touch the trains in the fields for hardware unless
so it would have to, train would have to be going back to the station and go into maintenance mode, which means it's not transporting people, which is a problem. Another problem you have, which is why the author says the new protocol, like maybe 2027, but again, like it has to be rolled out, which is.
You also have, I mean, you've got to realize that there's money problems because trains are not typically incredibly profitable. They are, but not incredibly. Every seat on Amtrak, for example, is subsidized by the federal government.
But when I play Monopoly, I make a lot of money off the railroads.
True. Not exactly the best simulation of reality, but okay. Plus,
maybe back in the day, maybe. I mean, a lot of people made a lot of money on the trains, but that was a long time ago.
Trains are very expensive, lots of real estate, lots of maintenance, lots of things to do, and they tend not to give up on their hardware. in the New York City subway system, for example, I'm privileged to know a little bit more about this than most because my dad is the expert witness for New York City Transit, or was for decades. And they started updating their train signaling hardware in the 1990s and 2010s, or early 2000s and 2010s, because the stuff from the 1890s, they couldn't get the raw materials to hand make anymore. Seriously, not joking.
Right.
So,
But it's interesting, like this almost has to be wireless. I can't see a wire because the trains are modular, right? So that's why they chose an RF protocol,
right?
Because the trains are modular. And so but you can't put a Faraday cage around the train either.
Nope.
I mean, that's expensive and heavy, and that has other residual costs.
And I'll defer to Lee here, being the train hobbyist here. Why couldn't they use a wire? Because if you have, say, a diesel locomotive that is producing power, that power is allegedly powered downstream to other cars, I'm sure.
So, yeah, but do you know how long some of those long freight trains are?
Miles.
2 and 3 miles long.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, yeah, the air hoses for the air brakes, which fail closed, is one thing, but the wire signaling, that's why they went with a radio signal instead.
You'd have to put repeaters in some of the cars, and to make it real, you'd have to put a repeater on every car, a powered repeater to boost the signal booster, and which means that you have to have a box added to every car.
Right.
And
far easier just to have 2 radios, one at each end, right?
You could go real old school and send the signal down the rail.
Oh.
Good.
Yeah,
that is beyond old school. That is not. No.
Yeah, that there's going to be some challenges there, but that's actually a neat idea. Yes, I'm wondering how you'd have to have some way to make the signal for each train unique in case they
Ethernet over power, right? Is that what it's called?
Yeah. Power line networking, essentially.
I mean, it's very innovative, but I think it explains why it was just an RF signal because of the engineering challenges in making it a physical connection.
Yeah.
And KISS.
Keep it
simple. Keep it simple, stupid.
Right. Like just a radio, the back of the train, you talk the front of the train over an RF protocol. Yeah.
But yeah.
So
we can come up with all cool ways to do this.
And this is the problem we're going to have. Like, there's no intermediate solution other than you got to update the trains. Wait, very similar to the hotel.
Lee, are there brakes on cars, or is it brakes only on front and back of the train?
No, it's there are brakes on all the cars.
Well, then that means that this box is sending the braking signals to each and every car already.
No, the braking signal is relayed the length of the train, but I'm running into a knowledge gap. But yes, all the cars brake or don't brake together.
Okay, so that signal has to be received.
But it's also the front to end. It's the end to end communication.
So there's already a receiver on every car, one would imagine.
No, there's only a FRED at the front and the back.
Okay, then how does the car in the middle know to turn the brakes on?
I'm looking.
Okay.
Well, I think
I'm diving deep in the weeds here. I'm sorry, Paul.
But I think physics-wise this is just my guess from just reading about it a little bit, is that the rear car could have different physics than the other cars, and therefore would need to brake differently than cars in the middle or the car in the front, right? So hence the radio signal that would signal, like it's getting a little wonky, like you need more brake or less brake to keep the caboose from going off the rails. It's kind of the way I understood it. Now we all have to be train experts to understand this.
Yep. I have to go on Facebook then.
We're working on it. Yeah. I got to read some Facebook and Reddit comments first. So hang on. I'll be right back. That makes anyone an expert on anything.
Come on. Geopolitical, terrorism, like your Facebook expert is a certificate, we should print them out.
Infectious diseases.
Okay. So,
like, seriously, I'm thinking of now doing stickers, little scrolls, certificates of I'm a Facebook infectious disease expert.
All right, Lee's got an answer here.
So the Fred isn't doing the braking. What it is, it's indicating the end of the train. They have multiple levels. So the simplest one is just where's the end of the long train. Next level up, you're looking at brake line pressure, so you know that the brakes are on from end to end or off. So the brakes were triggered from the locomotive, but this measures how effective they are, and it probably has some other logic in there that I haven't gotten to yet. But basically, it's a bunch of monitoring, and obviously, I suspect it can do things like release extra pressure or add extra pressure to the brake lines, which would mean you could really screw with things.
Yeah.
But if you can mess with the signaling about whether the brakes are on or off, tell the brakes are on when the engineer wants them off. Yeah. But yeah, they're those ugly metal black dark things that flash at the very back of the train that are about yay tall.
Yeah, it's just scary. There's no immediate quick fix for this.
Yeah.
It's very similar to hotel key cards in the attack that I presume they're still updating hotels, and the researchers who are sitting on basically we can open almost any hotel door technology haven't released how to do that. Like, it's not in the Iceman firmware release for reasons, because the only thing people would use that for is to go into rooms they're not supposed to go in. So,
right.
But again, it's a massive manual effort to update software and or hardware to remediate that problem, which is the same thing we have with the trains.
Yep. So, by the way, the unit that's in the cab, that's the head of train unit, is actually a pretty cool looking unit that can measure the brake pressure and show it at each car, although there's only one Fred. And the other interesting thing, this was done to save costs. You don't have to run a caboose. You don't have to pay people to be a brakeman. But if you run the train backwards, you have to put a human down on the back of the train to make sure the track is clear.
Right. Right. Because you got to see. Right. Imagine a world where every threat, ransomware, supply chain attacks, zero-day exploits is stopped before it can even begin. ThreatLocker makes that world a reality with a zero-trust approach to cybersecurity. By giving you granular control on every executable that can happen in your environment, ThreatLocker protects your business around the clock. No more guessing, no more gaps. Just rock-solid protection that keeps your operations running smoothly and your data secure. Discover how ThreatLocker's least privilege approach can safeguard your organization against known and unknown threats. Take the first step towards total peace of mind. Visit securityweekly.com/ThreatLocker today.
We're talking about this one protocol, but I'd venture to guess that specifically in this industry that there's other protocols that might suffer from the same problem. Ask me how I know.
No. Yeah.
And one of these, if I remember correctly, is a wired protocol. It's been a little bit since I've looked at this, and I cannot remember the name of the protocol. And you might, in some train lore, know this, but it has to do with some automation for switching. Specifically, it was this protocol. Is basically Ethernet based, not IP, so Ethernet. A switching protocol, so that it was originally designed for mines, so that they could switch, hauling carts in and out of the mine. So one was coming in and it would go to this track, and the other one would then go down, and they could switch back and forth and do that automated switching type of thing. And it grew to be able to do, automated switching in larger environments, larger tracks, and so forth. And when I was looking at this for a pen test, this protocol was in use for doing automated switching for the Japan bullet train.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This protocol does not feature any restrictions against capture and replay. There is no mutual authentication of packets.
You're serious?
I am.
Tell me you're joking.
But this is
serious.
This is underscoring interesting problems that we have I don't think we've necessarily talked about in this light, in that the vulnerabilities that we're discussing are, it's not like someone made a software oops and there's a bug or whatever.
Mhm.
The vulnerability is the
As
lack
designed.
the lack of the implementation of validation and or verification that the software it should be running is a software that it's running, right? Or the messages that it's receiving is really the messages that it should be receiving. And spoofing messages, like the lack of integrity checking or validation of messages in a protocol, or the missing firmware signature validation when you're applying firmware to a device, are in the same category now in my mind of vulnerabilities that are just, you didn't implement the security control, right? You didn't apply a method of validation for messages and or software updates. And these vulnerabilities are
designed.
harder to fix. It's as design. It was similar to the Bluetooth stuff you were talking about, Larry.
Yep.
A couple of weeks ago, you're like, yeah, you can choose one in Bluetooth, which is no encryption, and that's built into the protocol, right? So the vulnerability is you didn't implement the security control to protect your stuff, and now we're in a situation where we just don't have to fix a buffer overflow in code and release a patch. Now we have to potentially re-architect or restructure our code and sometimes infrastructure or platform to accommodate these changes, which is a much harder thing to do than just apply a software firmware patch, right? Now we have to get into keys and encryption and things like that, and it's more complicated.
Mm-hmm.
What's so complicated? You put your root certificate, your root key in your sock drawer.
Right.
I mean, Gary's got like 5 of them in his sock. Larry's got like 5 of them in his sock drawer. Come on. And then that's it. It's no big deal. Secrets management is solved. Just sock drawers. We're good.
Well, you're underscoring a problem that exists after you've implemented the verification or validation, and that is now you have to protect your private key. Because now that trust system that you built hinges on the privacy of the private key.
Mm.
But if you don't do it, there is no
drawer.
system of trust. Yeah, get out of Gary's sock drawer.
So, I'm sorry. Gary's talking to me as I'm just typing.
Oh,
Larry, I apologize. I was just looking for that thong. It's no big deal. Okay. Anyway,
it's okay. It's yours, so you can have it back.
Yeah. So but then but it's also what made me think of that too is I see small pockets of not implementing trust correctly in a protocol and or system, and I'm like, well, what else is vulnerable and who else is to Larry's point, like there's other protocols that exist that don't do this level of validation. The validation is missing from them as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we have our work cut out for us because we've got a lot of legacy stuff that has not built a system of trust into it, and we can abuse that lack of trust to do nefarious things. Right.
So there's another interesting thing I just stumbled into. I was starting to look up the trying to find the reference to the protocol used for train switches, and I found a document from 2008 that was a proposal to create a more secure system for doing this, which included the head of train and rear of train devices as well, that apparently didn't go anywhere. My point was, okay, somebody comes up with a proposal to do better, figures it out, has a plan, and apparently this had some funding, but it looks like it didn't get funded.
And it's interesting to think that had they acted 17 years ago, then we might not have these issues today. Might only exist in a few trains that missed the update or whatever, or about to be decommissioned, very similar to your IT infrastructure. But now, instead, every train is vulnerable still.
Yep. I mean, they had a collision avoidance system, train management, incremental train whole system, but I mean this proposal is like for 20, almost 30 million projects.
Gotcha.
In $2008.
Right.
Oh,
but still, it was a neat idea. It's just doggone it.
And does it say where that proposal went?
I haven't found it yet. The problem is I dive into this rat hole and I'll totally phase you guys out. And all you get from me is the free dumb looks.
Yeah, let's go to Sam. You mentioned my story number 8 about Expo, an AI-driven pen test tool that achieved first place on the HackerOne USA leaderboard. But what this article is pointing out is that it was only for a 3-month time window. That the reputation on HackerOne is quantitative, points earned from reports closed as valid. So it's not just about total bounties that have been paid out. And they use humans to filter out the false positives. And it states in the article, I don't know how true it is, but that Expo has 25 plus human experts who continually refine the system. One can surmise that at least a percentage of those are looking at reduction of false positives from the AI finding the bugs. So the article states the hype that AI will replace human bug hunters is overstated. I think you agree with this, Sam. You're on the side of we still need humans, and AI is not going to replace us for finding bugs for a long time.
Well, yeah, but I see the numbers have changed. The one I actually wanted to mention was your number 5, where they're talking about the tool
taking them to the shitter. That was the name of the article. And was this?
Yeah.
Who wrote this? Was this? Yeah, this is Raphael Mudge. I thought so. Okay, this is Raphael Mudge. So you have to paint them from he created Cobalt Strike, right? And attackers, real world criminals, got a hold of Cobalt Strike, and I never held Raphael and his company accountable for that. I was just like that happened. So we'll talk about that, but that's where this blog post came from. And the crux of the issue is that Elastic was talking about this commercial evasion tool called Shelter, and kind of whining and complaining that there's a commercial available software that allows you to evade EDR, antivirus, anti-malware on systems. And what they found was that Shelter, the commercial evasion system, was being used by real-world criminal threat actors. And so that was I read most of Raphael's article. I didn't read it in in-depth detail, but I didn't get the gist of it. And I read a little bit of the Elastic article. And my summation, I think I put in the notes, is that people are bent out of shape due to the fact that commercial attack tools end up in the wrong hands. Well, boo-hoo. You got to defend your network against all types of threats, tactics, techniques. What does it matter if it's commercial or open source? It doesn't matter. That software exists in the world. Therefore, you have to come to the conclusion that bad people are going to get a hold of it. Well, you need to do them as much as you protect it, and they're going to use it. I'm almost reminded, Larry, of Core Impact, right? In how closely guarded, and actually because they had such amazing engineering talent, who, if you're watching or listening, my friends from Argentina, I'm wearing the jersey, the soccer or football jersey, just for you folks. And but what Core Security would do is put a lot of engineering effort around Core Impact, its usage and license. It was encrypted, and it was keyed to certain people. They really went out of their way to make sure that if it did fall in the wrong hands, we may have a shot at figuring out who is using it and or reclaiming it. And I thought they did an amazing job of that. Likely because they knew if we create this awesome attack software, we really don't want it to fall in the wrong hands. So, and we don't want to get sued, and we don't want to look bad. So they put an amazing amount of effort into mitigations against that. And I'm not saying other people have to go to that level or did not go to that level, but that's what it reminds me of, is that Core Impact example where they're like, oh, wait a minute. And I've actually in the past gotten called out oh, you're using a commercial hacking tool in the CTF. That's not fair. I'm like, but when you're defending a network in the real world, this was a CTF to train students. I'm like, when they get into the real world, attackers are going to have all kinds of stuff. Sky's the limit. The nature of a criminal threat actor is they're going to commit crimes. If one of their crimes is stealing some commercial software because it contains capabilities that benefit them and help them achieve their goals, that's what they're going to do. So
I got to say, I really love the fact that Mudge in the last paragraph of this article, not just rips Elastic a new because he says, look, they're slinging FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. I mean, come on, how long have we been seeing FUD? 30 years now. Okay. But in the last paragraph, he says, look, if they had said, here is an example of what some tools that can cause damage are, even if they'd used Shelter as an exemplar, that would have been fine. It would the exact same technical analysis would apply. But the perspective, the context they put on that technical analysis is where he's unhappy.
Yeah,
And I gotta
because they
give him-
did put context around it. Correct me if I'm wrong, Josh, but the context was because this is commercial software, we shouldn't have to be defending against it. They should protect their software from getting in the wrong hands. It's kind of like their gripe.
Kind of, yeah. They're basically saying, we are the victim here because we at Elastic have to protect against this commercial software now being used by bad actors. And it's like, look, dude, there's more than
We're
just
past
Shelter
that now.
out there.
Well,
Yeah.
Come on.
There's a ton of commercial software just for criminal threat actors. They buy and sell software all the time.
Right.
There's a whole ecosystem around it.
Well, they do have a point. There is some point, like that Israeli company, NSO, where you market your stuff sort of openly to criminal regimes. Eventually, you do get sanctioned or something if you just let your stuff be used by really bad people too much. And these guys made a lot of good faith efforts to limit who was using their stuff.
Yeah, I think you're right, Sam. I agree. You need good faith efforts. You can't just be like, "Hey, I'm making this software. It can be used for bad or evil." And guess what? We don't care who uses it and why and what they're using it for. If you're going to be a legitimate company, you at least have to try to make sure that whatever you're creating is used for non-criminal purposes. Basically, they could apply to any product you bring to market. If there is a possibility it could be used for criminal purposes, you should. But then when you get to the Flipper Zero, I don't that kind of falls apart, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the Flipper Zero works as a lie detector. That was the interesting news.
Oh my
to me.
god! Oh my god! I don't know how. Oh, I stumbled across this article because I have a search for Flipper Zero, and any article that mentions Flipper Zero that tries to aggregate it. So when I saw this article, I was like, "What is that? What story number is that?" My story
Your
number
number-
3.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and this is a terrible crime. Someone was actually kidnapped and interrogated and threatened with a gun to the head, the whole thing. And those they arrested the two people. Thankfully, they found them. They arrested them, and they have a hearing upcoming in July. But one of the things that happened during this particular interrogation is they broke out a Flipper Zero, showed it to the victim, and made claims that it would act like a lie detector. Now, obviously, the person being interrogated, I don't know if they knew what a Flipper Zero was or not. I mean, their hands were literally tied, so they couldn't Google it and figure it out. But obviously, it doesn't act as a lie detector. Although, you know what's going to happen now? Someone's going to go, "Oh, I bet you I can make an add-on board for the Flipper Zero that's a lie detector."
You can do galvanic skin response with an add-on board.
You can, right? I think there's Arduino stuff that helps you do that. I'm sure there's Arduino stuff that you could string together to do that. In fact, there's probably, if we search for it now, I bet you someone's done it. What was the Mike Poor thing, Larry? Click your heels 2 times.
I don't know if I remember that one.
And if it exists on the internet, you'll find it. Or if you needed a problem solved, you click your heels 2 times and you search for it on the internet, and then someone's done it.
Yeah, something like that. I know that the one that we used to do in class is like, oh hey, where we're teaching for SANS, like, hey, we stumbled across a problem. Here's this problem. You describe it to your class, and you do it about 3 times to 3 different classes, and one of your students will fix the problem.
Yep, here it is on the Arduino Project Hub. In August of 2016, someone built an Arduino lie detector. And it's a complete build guide. And there you have it. It's on the internet.
Yeah. Well, I just scanning the article you had on this. That's like the guy never, he didn't put a gun in the guy's mouth. He had a Flipper Zero, but he only uses it for playing games.
Yeah, right. Doesn't use it for any other nefarious purposes.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
no, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
If you
What
know
kind of games is he playing on it?
Yeah. I can't describe those a mixed company. No, I don't know.
Right.
Oh dear.
Illegal ones. Illegal games.
Yeah. It just, yeah. I don't think of a Flipper Zero as a gaming platform particularly.
But they do have the gaming thing for it.
True. But
What is
still.
that? They have the game. What do they call it?
Stand by.
Video game module for Flipper Zero. It's $49.
This
And
one,
we
the
can
video
see
game
what-
module.
Yeah, video game module. Yeah, I actually don't have a video game module for it.
I do.
Have
Never
you taken
used
it
it.
out of the box yet? No, haven't
Yeah.
used it yet?
Yeah. It's
I
out
took it out of the
I
box
just
and
never
looked
used
at it, and then
it.
didn't-
That's cool. HDMI. Like we could do Flipper Zero HDMI output and put it on the show.
Oh,
right.
that would be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Does it screen mirror or
Yeah.
It mirrors
as
what's
far
on
as
the
I know.
Flipper. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's kind of sexy.
Yeah, in the demo they show
Mhm.
them playing Breakout with it. Yeah. Anyway,
You could put that into an A10 Mini and have your Flipper as a camera. Okay, wait. I'm sorry. I have to think about this now.
well, so but one of the things that I think is interesting, speaking of the Flipper, is I think perhaps one of the most interesting things that the Flipper Zero introduced to our community was it motivated folks in our community to create clones and go, wait, I can do that cheaper. I can do that easier. I can do that more modular. I can have an open source version. It doesn't have to be closed. We don't have to spend $169. The stuff isn't, embargoed on eBay and Amazon. We can buy it. And tons of people have done that. And my story number 2 is another one. It's called the Flopper Zero. It's a Flipper Zero clone. And zero is spelled Ziro. So it's the Flopper Zero. I love it. I love it. They used a different microcontroller, STM32-L432KC you can get a kit that has a bunch of more headers on it. It's called the Neo something, Nucleo. And this is ultra power, low power consumption, high performance, up to 80 megahertz, 256 kilobytes of flash, 64 kilobytes of SRAM.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't familiar with this microcontroller, but the great thing is, like, whether they're going to use it for Flipper Zero style stuff or not, looking at this project and then going, oh, I'm going to build that and make it work is such an amazing, awesome learning experience for everyone, right? It's one of the things I love about Flipper Zero is what it's done for the community, not just the device itself, but the other things it spawned. I mean, if you look at Bruce firmware for a whole bunch of ESP32s, I mean, it's almost feature on point with the Flipper Zero at this point, and supports a ton of devices that are far cheaper than the Flipper Zero. So much so, I started carrying my LilyGo T-Embed CC1101 because it's like pretty much Flipper functionality, and then you can get add-ons for it too. I forget the bus connection they use, but there's a add-on, there's like a 3 or 4 pin add-on port that you can add RFID and a whole bunch of stuff. So this one looks fun to build, and there are several, and I have parts to build another one from a completely different source, and I haven't done it yet. So this is on my list to build my own Flipper Zero, just because you can.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Funny thing is, I started looking for where to find some of the stuff related to it, and it kept getting auto-corrected to Flipper Zero.
Right. The Flopper Zero. Yes, my story number 2.
That is kind of cool. I was thinking that if that might just be a real fun project with some young people that live with you, Paul.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. If you're going to do projects with your kids, building the Flipper Zeros is probably a good place to start. Maybe not start, but get to.
Yeah.
Start with basic soldering.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's not like we can go out and buy the Heathkit radio to do with them anymore.
Seriously, but there are
Larry gave me tons of solder. There's tons of like starter soldering.
Oh, I
kits
know
out
there
there.
are.
Yeah,
I know.
There's like a million of them on Amazon. Larry.
That was just me going
some.
Heathkit, nostalgic for Heathkit. But
Belaboring the death of Heathkit.
Yeah. What was Heathkit? Was that a kit that you buy? You got to solder yourself?
They had everything
Oh
clock
God,
radios,
and
TV sets,
Oh, okay.
transceivers, the
Yeah,
whole
it
9
was-
yards.
it was
Part of
through-hole soldering. You would solder it. You would build the board. Or the crystal radios were very popular back even before I was born or Lee was born even. And you'd build a crystal radio from wire, electromagnet kits, things like that. So, and they graduated to doing kits with PCBs effectively.
Yep.
Or actually, they weren't PCBs back then, were they? They
So,
were,
any of
Breadboards.
my modern bios have a story about a Heathkit device, and specifically, sort of the tagline is that as a kid, I helped my dad rebuild the TV that caught on fire twice, and that was because it was a color television that my dad built in the basement from a Heathkit kit.
Wow.
Heathkit had subcontracted that kit out to out to a third party. And as part of one of the design decisions, there was something about dust collecting on a component that got very hot, and they would catch on fire.
Woo!
And ours did that, and it caught on fire, and it got put out. And my dad carted it down to the basement, pulled it back all apart, and put it back together, and reassembled it. And I helped put it together, and then I helped fix it, and it caught on fire again.
Was it like a capacitor that was
I
in
don't-
a spot that got dust or something?
I don't remember.
I mean, you're talking about
So-
breadboards, and any failure of manufacturing in a breadboard is dangerous as hell when you're
Yep.
carrying that kind of current for a TV. You know,
Sam.
remember this is the old cathode ray tube TVs.
Oh yeah, right.
Sam,
Sam,
So
you have a
I'd say
comment?
your repair job restored all the functionality.
including
Including the fire.
including the
Even
combustion.
fire
Yeah,
functionality.
including the combustion. Yeah.
It's funny though, like if we even had a TV that malfunctioned, let alone catch fire, not only would we throw it away and get a new one, we would buy a different brand altogether just to make sure that it wasn't going to catch fire. Also, why we have UL standards.
And we still don't have cyber risk standards, which is
Right.
I saw so many articles that are just security 101 flaws, like a default password, like a known patch that didn't get propagated to the end product. Just
I'm working on that.
it's
Sam.
amazing that you
Yeah.
still can't buy a product that doesn't make the top 10 security mistakes.
It's true. Your company runs on Google Workspace, but it's an afterthought for most security tools. Material Security is the first and only platform purpose-built to protect Google Workspace, securing email, data, and user accounts from advanced threats. From blocking sophisticated phishing attacks in Gmail to preventing unauthorized app usage and fixing risky file sharing in G Drive, Material continuously protects your data. Don't settle for second best. Protect Google Workspace with Material Security. Learn more at securityweekly.com/material security. It's true.
I'm
I
working
want to go
on
in
this.
I want to go in a different direction than when I looked at your stories, Sam. Your story number 1. A little-known Microsoft program could expose the Defense Department to Chinese hackers. I had a different take based on I think it was a Darknet Diaries I listened to, but what was your story?
Yeah, well, this one, apparently Microsoft has had a long-standing program where their tech support is done by outsourced Chinese workers, and they're overseen by a non-technical management type in America. So the non-technical management type is the one that has the security clearance. The outsourced worker doesn't, but the non-technical management type is supposed to be monitoring things to make sure nothing bad happens, but they're not able to notice if the technical person is running a dangerous script or anything. So, and they've been warned many times that this is a bad practice, but even the people in charge of the military security said, I didn't know this. I never heard about this. The information keeps sort of getting lost somewhere because I guess it saves money. And people keep approving it and dodging the compliance and regulatory requirements that would appear to be involved.
That's illegal.
Well, you would think so, but it's been going on for years.
It's illegal.
Yeah.
The CUI, controlled unclassified information, under CMMC is not allowed to be in Chinese hands. It's simply
They
not.
have some argument that somehow the technical person is not directly accessing the information or something like that. It sounds really shady.
It
So
doesn't.
I
their
imagine
whole
not
export
directly
control
accessing
needs no problem.
it matters
Yeah.
if they have access to it. if there's a possibility that they can access it, CMMC is in play. And if CMMC is in play, this contract is absolutely illegal. Mind you, it's not the fact that it's a foreign person; it's the fact that it's China. Okay.
Yeah. Well, this
yeah.
was, I think, this program dates from a time when we were less hostile to China. And I wouldn't be surprised if things will change now that this has become publicly known.
But the rules around sensitive unclassified data go back decades. I mean, it's not, not since we've been calling it CUI. It's older than that. And it predates CMMC. I mean, that the rules were still there and there were still consequences. I mean, a deemed export's a problem.
No foreign and NOFORN, and there was SBU, and there was all sorts of different abbreviations, by the way, most of which had much more explicit no foreigners allowed to see this stuff.
So Microsoft had this problem back in the day as well, and it was in the times of EI. So Greg Lenars, who I recognize the name, and he worked at EI back in the day. EI was the vulnerability threat hunting, pen testing firm. They were finding 0 days in Microsoft products. And Greg stated in the podcast that he noticed a user account called like LFang on one of their systems, and that his boss pulled him aside at the time, who's another like prominent figure in secure, like most of the EI people, right, or people you'd recognize today, and was like, well, that person we figured out was working for Microsoft. And we're like, whoa, hold on a minute. Because EI was developing 0-day exploits for vulnerabilities in Microsoft products, Microsoft planted got someone hired at EI that really worked for Microsoft. Now the story gets even so that in of itself is bad. I've never think I might have heard people mentioning that could happen. But this is the first time I've seen in public record where an eyewitness is like, pun intended, eyewitness, an eyewitness is stating publicly that this happened. Microsoft planted an employee at a cybersecurity company. Okay. Then it would come out later that China planted that spy at Microsoft. So this person was a double agent, but in like a very weird way, not in the traditional double agent way.
I wonder how many of these workers are North Korean hackers that we think are U.S. citizens.
Well, now North Korea is working on perfecting that placement of people in all different types of companies. I mean, recently we saw it with Sentinel-1 was like, we discovered that. And thankfully their processes caught it. Props to them. But
yeah. So if you scroll down the paragraph that starts, global workers have no direct access to customer data or customer systems, that's the story that they're telling to the auditors and others about how they're protecting it. And in fact, that's what you would say if you were doing a digital escort as they're described. But if you read the next paragraph, I'm saying, oh, we got a whistleblower saying that's not how it really is. I'm sorry, a little cynical on my answer there, but it appears they're saying that ain't how it works in reality. And actually, this is an interesting problem I had to work with in terms of, a lot of remote support now. They want RDP and control your system to provide support. How do you do that on the live system without exposing data? And this has nothing to do with citizenship, by the way. It's just need to know. They don't need to know the data that's in the system. They need to help you fix the damn thing, right? And how do you? And so we did the equivalent of a digital escort. They were not in direct control. So, oopsie, we lost some people.
Who'd we lose? We lost Sam and Josh.
Yeah. So
someone fixed the internet today.
Yeah, I guess so.
I'm not eating. I
guess we were talking smack about people and they shut us down. So anyway,
you think it was Microsoft, or you think it was the Chinese spies that work for Microsoft, or someone that works for the train authority shut us down?
Anyway, so yeah. I know, by the way, that part in the paragraph that says they're not going to disclose exactly how they're doing this, I would probably say something similar. I wouldn't necessarily want to get into lots of public details about how I'm doing that, but I might be inclined to be a little more forthcoming than what they're saying. But I get it. But it doesn't mean I'm not uncomfortable. So anyway, this is like I said, So, Josh, just as you were ejected from the room, I was pointing out that they have in the article a thing about what they're doing in a high level, which is something you would say to I don't know, an agency or something talking about digital escorting. It starts paragraph that starts with global workers have no direct access. And
I saw that, and I'm going to tell you what that is.
well, aside from double talk to let them do what they want to do.
That-
What I was going to say is that's the public facing answer that's technically politically correct. And I say the paragraph below it is a whistleblower that says that we don't actually do that. Am I going to tinfoil hat on you?
Just a second.
No, we're getting an echo.
It's a legit problem. And actually, we should all have, and I'll tell you why it's a legit problem. Remote support wants to remote control your system and work on it to fix stuff a lot of times now, particularly business systems. And as a business, they have no need to see your information, right? So that's what I mean by we all have a digital escort problem. It's
So just implant the spy and not
right.
have to rely on the digital escort.
And it is tricky. I mean, I'm talking about, you're doing like, you're in a Zoom meeting where you're allowing them to remote control your screen, but you've got logs and you're watching everything. You can mitigate to a point, but right.
Well, I love. I'll be honest. I love what their little graphical on how they do it. Tech reports needed on a Microsoft Cloud product. A Microsoft engineer in China files an online ticket to take on the work, which means they have to be able to see screenshots, description, names, usernames, things like that.
Yeah.
The US-based escort picks up the ticket as I will escort them around. They meet on the Teams conferencing platform. The engineer sends computer commands to the US escort, presenting an opportunity to insert malicious code. In other words, they're on Teams looking at the customer screen and taking remote control of it. That is, by definition, access to CUI, secret, potentially TS. Like, sorry, we're done.
And they're saying they're mitigating because the digital escort's going to sit there and limit what they can and cannot do. I'm not disagreeing with you, Josh. I'm just saying that's what they are saying.
No, we're on the same page. We're on the same page.
And this is a hard freaking problem. Like, even if you're not asking Chinese, I mean, just if the support guy's down the block, but he's not in your company, right? It's the same difficult problem. But it's worse when you have an international or you have a I don't know, what do you want to say? Intelligence gathering or pick your phrase. It heightens it.
An adversary with massive technical capability who is
okay, you win.
Like, done. I mean, like, look, right now, even in the US, like one of the things we're seeing in the CMMC world is that MSPs and MSSPs are freaking out because if they have an RMM, a remote monitoring and management tool, they are required to be CMMC compliant because they then have access to CUI data. That's just CUI, not even classified.
Right.
But like when you get into classified stuff, and they're asking for people with secret clearances here, so by definition, it's going to be classified. Some of it. And China's doing the tech support?
Do you mean beating my head on the microphone?
Yeah, I can see you, and I'm going to have a hard time fixing the drywall as I beat my head into it.
I'm with you.
All right, let's talk about something else then.
This was, by the way, this is a cool story. Sam, all the reactions aside, this was cool. Don't get me wrong.
Sam, your story number 4 was referencing the SMM callout vulnerabilities in Gigabyte UEFI firmware. Over 500 models of Gigabyte boards are vulnerable to this. Now, I'm biased because I like the team at AMI. I've worked with them, and I like them. But also, I've evaluated what they're doing in certain context, and which is a report that actually we published on Eclipsium site. But they're doing a great job, and that's what the report says. And I can personally attest to that. And there's a public report on our website that gives further evidence. So when I got to this story, and AMI was like, "Yeah, we patched the vulnerabilities in UEFI. However, we licensed that to Gigabyte, who did not take the upstream patches or downstream, however you want, right? They didn't take the patches from AMI and push them out into all of 500 plus model boards. And so I don't want to throw stones at Gigabyte because, I mean, it's, all the manufacturers are in the same boat. and my theory, and my coworkers agreed on this point, is that Gigabyte targets the consumer, primarily gaming market, and that market moves fast. Consumer technology especially moves fast. So Gigabyte's next board is going to support whatever the next processor is, especially if they have to change the socket, right? They got to make all new boards. They're not putting as much R&D and engineering into the previous models, applying those UEFI patches, because they're kind of trying to iterate on to support their target market, which is the gaming community. The gaming community is who buys Gigabyte motherboards. Because I also asked the question, I'm like, Dell, Lenovo, and HP as 3 examples, like, do they license the boards or buy them from Gigabyte? And I'm like, I don't think they do. And my coworker was like, no, they fab their own boards, and they're in control of the UEFI subsystem for that. So there's not a lot of sharing going on there. Because the enterprise demands of the HP, Dell, Lenovo's of the world that they provide a stable platform. They keep with updates. I want to buy something from Dell, and I want it to last at least 5 years. So you get to give me, updates. When you're selling gaming hardware to the gamers are updating, so they're probably going to be the ones updating anyway, and not hanging on to that older gear because they always want the latest gear. So they don't have as strong of a business driver to update their firmware, such as UEFI.
Right. And I'd add one caveat to your list, Paul, and that is that the enterprise user doesn't want those updates more than monthly, preferably less. They want it stable, so that they're not updating the computers while they're opening and closing the books, for example. It's just stable.
There is kind of this notion, and I think it's Security Week, and I believe that these are coincided to what the Security Week author has dubbed the chip maker patch Tuesday. And I've noticed this trend, and we're going to try and actually formalize this a little better, that Intel, AMD, and maybe NVIDIA or some of the other larger chip-based manufacturers release patches on a Tuesday, like in a month. And so there's this concept that they release. And I've seen this where I'm like, why am I so busy today? Because I'm filing all these reports and tickets. Like, we gotta support this. We have to pay attention to that. We have to go through 47 advisories, figure out which ones are, not for like one-off products, right? Because Intel does make other products and some in other software. I'm like, that's not really a UEFI or firmware thing, but some of the stuff is. And I'm like, okay, well, how bad is it? How quickly do we need to like rush support? So there is that concept, which is pretty cool. To your point, Lee, of them releasing monthly. But back to the Gigabyte thing. If you have one of these boards, you're kind of shit out of luck. There is a bunch of models in this release, if you go read them, that will not get updates because they're they call it a bunch of different things: end of life, end of support, end of tech updates. Like they call it like a bunch of different things. Basically, the board's not supported anymore. It's not going to get a new update for UEFI. So your options are throw it out and get a new one, or monitor the UEFI and detect any changes, especially to things like UEFI binaries. Now, doing that manually is extremely difficult. Ask me how I know this, because Montejo's built a product around it. That there's a lot of engineers, including the founders and original coworkers that worked at Intel, that were working on UEFI at Intel, that helped develop this process to be able to baseline your UEFI. So not impossible to do on your own, detect these changes, but that's kind of one of our specialties. So if you can do that, then I think you can hang on to older hardware, right? You've at least got some detection mechanism that something is awry in UEFI.
With all the UEFI shenanigans as of late, I'd want to be detecting UEFI changes even on current supported hardware.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can turn that on for any system you're monitoring,
of course,
or software. But
yeah, and what is the wise ass remark on the older hardware is life cycle it, right? Because that's so practical all the time. You got to track life cycle, but that doesn't mean it's easy to do.
Yeah, well, that's the Wemo stuff. I mean, like,
this
this is crazy. honestly, we're going to see more and more of this as time goes on. How much stuff is going to be implanted in your house, built into the wall, whatever, that is going to go bad or end of life. And
A lot of it.
Also, I think
most
higher
of it.
end workstation gear has a little bit of a longer tail of support. I think because you're building a system that's so darn fast, they know you're going to keep it longer and it has a longer life cycle. So like my Asus board that has my Threadripper in it, I got a UEFI update early this year or last year, like not that long ago. There was an update. And so that is one benefit of, building a really wicked fast one. Oh my God, what is this? We home automation.
This is my retired Wemo inventory. There's
Jesus.
14 devices here.
So they're bricking all of those?
I just
Effectively, yeah.
effectively, yeah.
So what
I
happened?
built-
Wemo said we're not supporting them anymore.
Yeah, basically as of January, and when I got the notice, it was Prime Day. So I've got about $500
Yep.
worth of Remos that I replaced for about $130 of their competitor.
So let me ask you a question. You bought
But do they don't? Sorry, Judge. They don't break the devices. They just no longer get firmware updates, or do they stop talking to the control software?
The control software is desupported, except
Okay.
for that other protocol. It's not Match. It's the one that's before Match. So it uses
okay.
a third-party hub.
Yeah. Okay.
And their infrastructure, their app, their website behind it, all that goes away. And I factory wiped every one of these, except I haven't done this one yet.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Just
have
jam
an
it in the
idea on
outlet
how to
lead.
do it.
Yeah, just jam it in the outlet. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Belkin Wemo. Yeah, they just announced that they were de-supporting stuff as of January 26th. I just jumped. Yes, I was pissed off, but I also realized it's Prime Day, so I could sit there and be pissed off. I could
that
wait
stuff
till
goes on sale.
January, or I could take a look at what I could get.
And the rest you can get on Black Friday deals. It'll go on sale again.
Let's be clear. You didn't pay a subscription fee for these things. You bought a device with an accompanying suite of software, and the device is still functional, but the accompanying suite of software is now disabled.
Yes.
And the cloud connection to that suite of software is disabled. Am I correct?
That's right.
Or will be as of January.
It will be as of January.
As will the
if you wanted to
skill that
reverse
goes
engineer-
with Amazon and Google.
And if you wanted to reverse engineer it, you could build your own server. But
Give me your address, Josh. I got a box of stuff for you.
Can't you just do HomeKit? You could do that with. Is it HomeKit? What's the open source home automation?
This will integrate with HomeKit because
HomeKit.
most of these have the little QR code for HomeKit.
Yep. Yeah. So basically, someone's already done that, Josh. So if you switch to HomeKit, you could still use the devices.
when you switch to HomeKit, you can still use them. What's the downside of that, Larry? I know you've got a downside there.
I do not have a downside for that.
There's no
That
cloud.
probably is a downside, though.
There's no cloud and app. Once you go HomeKit, you kind of just rolling it on your own. Which I mean, if you're using that for your
And
home
you need a
automation,
hub.
it shouldn't be a big deal.
You need a hub.
Oh, and you need a hub to attach that talks to HomeKit.
You need the HomeKit
gotcha.
hub, right?
No, HomeKit's something you build on your own. Is that what you're referring
No, you
to?
can buy
You
can buy
run HomeKit on a Raspberry Pi.
Yeah, you could, or if you've got an Apple TV, it'll work too, or some other things. Yeah, but you have to have something that's functionally a hub. But and it's, by the way, it's an option. But I was also trying to. What this started is I added another circuit for Christmas lights, and I wanted to have the same automation switch on it as the existing circuit because, then they matched. And I went looking. This is months ago, by the way. I was starting to do my research. I couldn't buy the switch I had anymore from Belkin, and I started looking, and I looked at their line and they had basically discontinued almost everything.
Jeez.
Okay, and then so I just steamed on that for a while, and then I decided, well, I'll pull the plug on the electrician and get that done. I did that last week, and then that same day that I had them in Murphy's Law, the day that I had the circuit installed was that day that email came out.
Oh,
but it was also Prime Day. So I made my choice to stay the same. I could have done, like you said, I could have done the HomeKit. The HomeKit will work with the new standard they have, so I could have gone that way.
Gotcha.
And but I thought the better option that the alternative, I actually went down the TP-Link line, had a better feature to feature and a fraction the cost. And
Was it
I know
the
they-
TP-Link Kazaa?
Yeah.
Kazaa.
Kazaa.
Yeah, that's what I use in my home and the studio. Actually,
Yeah,
it's
And
great.
it was-
And the devices, like you said, are super cheap. Like their cameras. I want to say, I've put cameras up, and they're 1080p. They record to SD card. They integrate with the TP-Link app, and they were some $30, Lee.
Yeah.
And it does motion sensing,
You're kidding.
and they're like
mean-
$30.
I think I paid $60 for this,
Yeah,
and I got a 3-pack of
the
TP
TP-Links.
links for like $32.
Damn.
I use
Yeah.
those in my house. I use.
So
the
I only
TP-Link.
needed 2, so I got a spare.
No,
Yes, but the red team is here in
No,
the
wait. Yeah, that's,
no,
Larry has
No.
the actual answer.
no. TP-Link Systems is a US-based company.
Yeah.
And they're
And they've
Oh yeah,
their
and they have this
security
newfound
has
commitment
been
to security,
worked
which is
over.
great. Yeah, that
they've
actually
got good
inspires. I was like, oh, I don't have any TP-Link routers, forgetting that all my home automation and for the studio is TP-Link.
I will also argue that they don't have a newfound commitment to security. They've always had a commitment to security. They are now doubling down.
Yeah,
valid.
Well,
well said, Larry.
I wasn't implying with newfound. I was implying their security was good, and it's been validated by a trusted friend of mine.
I hear their Omada
yes.
line is pretty damn good, by the way. It's Omada.
Yeah.
Omada.
Omada. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Um,
The other killer was, it was bloody hard to get the Wemos set up, particularly with the HomeLink stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
They arrived at like, I don't know, whatever o'clock at night, because it's one of those, until 10 o'clock deliveries. And my wife was at a meeting. And I got like 11 out of 16 provisioned in an hour and a half, including the ones wired in the garage.
seriously?
Mm.
Seriously.
Larry's actively
not bad.
reversing one of the Wemo plugs live on the air, which is great.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out because I think these used to be ESP8266 based.
Oh, really?
Ah.
So if that's the case, somebody could write their own firmware for them.
Yep.
The problem is that they are screwed together with a
That's not
single
a Phillips
screw.
head screw drive.
It's
screw
a
either.
tri-wing.
Yeah,
it's a tri-wing, and I don't have my tri-wing screw bits handy.
It was probably one of those drawers behind you.
No, it's in the
No.
garage.
Yeah.
It wasn't a matter of it wasn't. He didn't
I don't have a
one. It was a
tri-wing
matter of
bit.
where it was in the house.
Yeah. And of course, the other motivator is one of these guys would occasionally lose its mind, and I'd have to reprovision it
Yep.
about every 3 or 4 months. Really annoying when it's during the Christmas display season.
Ugh.
And the crazy thing is, this had one control, everything on or off. The new TP-Link, I can turn each outlet on or off separately.
Yes.
Oof.
Yeah, I've got the
That
power
sticks.
strip from TP-Link, and you can individually label each port on it and turn them on and off individually on the power strip.
Or you can create a group that you can turn them all
Yep.
off and on.
Yep.
So anyway, I was definitely on. I'm glad you guys didn't talk to me about this last week. I was on a definite rant. But by the way, I don't fault Belkin for discontinuing the product. I mean, it was their business choice, and they were very nice in the email. They said, it wasn't a trivial decision for them. I get that, but
Oh,
actually,
I've got an axe to grind this week too, and it's with Bleeping Computer, which I don't want to knock Bleeping Computer because we like Bleeping Computer. And it's a great publication, but
yeah.
I got a little lazy. I don't know if this is just a one-off that I'm pointing out, but it happened to be in my critical path, so it really grinded my gears. So if you publish an article that references another article, and this article directly quoted that other article, you have to put a link to that article. Like, that's like a rule, right? Especially if I quote someone else's article, I should at least put a hyperlink to it in my
It's polite.
publication.
Yeah.
Haven't we been doing this since the early days of the internet? This is like hyperlinking to each other. That's why we created the World Wide Web. So we could hyperlink to each other. That was one of the huge benefits. And now here we are in 2025, and there's no hyperlink to the article that you just quoted. And so the Bleeping Computer article was talking about SonicWall SMA devices that have since been end of life that have been compromised and malware was deployed to them. And the Bleeping Computer article is mentioning Google Threat Intelligence Group, which I believe is Mandiant, that they did an investigation and got all the gory details about not so much about the exploitation, but about the malware, and published all these IOCs. So the Bleeping Computer article is referencing this, and I'm like, well, I want to read the original article. Like, you great, Bleeping Computer did great coverage, like, nice job and all, but I need to read the original research because I need to go file a ticket for my day job so that
Well, usually
we
they're
can
pretty
go
good
look at
about links to that stuff.
right. I want in cybersecurity vendors, right? We should all be going, oh, someone published detailed IOCs and Yara rules. We should look at those so that we can put it in our products and help our customers and make the world a better place, right? And that's what I was trying to get to, except I was like, Bleeping Computer should be ashamed of themselves because now this lazy hacker has to search the internet for Google Threat Intelligence Group's original post, which, by the way, contained those valuable IOCs and Yara rules. Thank you very much. But yeah, no damn.
Well, fortunately, you had a nice search string in the form of that quote that you could search for.
Yes.
So interesting.
Which I did, in fact, because Google's blogs are a hot mess. Sometimes I get lost trying to find the right Google blog, and I'll find one and it'll have articles, but I'm like, that's not the articles I'm looking for. It's in a different section of it's like a sub blog of a sub blog that contains can you just, when Mandy creates IOCs, Google, can you just put it on the regular Google homepage, like a little link, like, hey, everyone, cybersecurity, pay attention. We just published some shit that you don't want to pay attention to, because you should. When they publish stuff like this is great, again, because they've done forensics and incident response, and they've uncovered all the gory details about the attacker's malware. And I'm like, this is stuff we want to know about.
I mean, too bad they're not business partners or something.
I know, right?
This
is the case where I don't want the AI summary. I have to read the gory details. I need those.
What's interesting is some of the search engine I was messing with the other day gave me the results, and then it said, if you want the AI summary, click here, but it wasn't giving it to me by default, which I thought was kind of nice. So I could do it the old-fashioned way. If I wanted the summary, boom. Then I wasn't biased by the summary when I went to look at the details. I mean,
I did put the hyperlink in the show notes, by the way, if people do want to go read the original article.
That's
cloud.google.com
you're not a savage.
/blog/topic/threat intelligence is where it was. And their SonicWall secure mobile access exploitation overstep backdoor. So it was the overstep backdoor.
Right.
That they were installing on the end of life SonicWall devices. Which apparently just run Linux. By the way, in case you're curious, the Yara rule was all Linux stuff. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I've taken to adding to my stories. I've been taking to adding following links that I find related to the stories.
I've always tried to do that.
Yeah.
Because again, oftentimes the popular cybersecurity press article will talk about something that happened or a piece of research, and then there's the actual research. And hopefully associated GitHub or whatever that I want to go read, that I might need for reasons.
Right. Like the article you covered Wing FTP with the Hunter Security link. And I found the link for Hunter Security and for RCE, the guys that discovered it.
RCE is the ones that discovered it. Yep.
Right. And I've got both those links in there along with I forget what publication I used for the pretty version, but I got all
with that one. With that one, I would have sent them to Huntress, because Huntress references the actual research in like the first sentence of their article.
Yeah, no, that Huntress article, when I set it up, if I had it to do over, I would have led with the Huntress article link like you did.
Yeah.
Let's just put it that way. But when I was putting it together, and I said, oh, this goes with it. This goes with it.
But like, why are people still using FTP? I mean, Wing FTP or WFTP, I trace it back to 2003 is when that software was created.
Right. So Wing FTP also does SSS, SFTP and STPS. Try and say that fast.
Right.
But it also does regular FTP. It's like, why? And it also does HTTP and SCP and other things. But yeah, I'm thinking, why keep the insecure one? But it's actually their web interface that's where the vulnerability is.
Yeah, something about Lua in the web interface.
And I'm still not convinced that I know transferring files around is how the world works in many places, but that still feels old school. There's got to be better, more modern ways to do information interchange, like through APIs and stuff, and not.
But I mean,
files.
I'll go back 20 years or so when I discovered that the batch processing from the mainframe transferred like mission critical files from the mainframe to another like Windows or Novell computer via FTP. And from my recollection, the reason that happens is mainframes don't support like modern file transfer protocols like SMB or anything fancy software, but they do support FTP. So if you've got jobs running on your mainframe that's running your business, you need to get some of the results from those jobs to some other system. FTP was how it was transferred.
Right.
And so that's more of a programmatic business use case for using FTP to transfer files because it's such a common protocol that's built into everything, which could explain why Wing FTP is, started in 2003 and people are still buying the software today.
Yeah. And I would say something along the lines of, that's fine in your perimeter, but don't bloody use that stuff going out over the internet.
Shouldn't use it out the internet, but even internally, that stuff's going to be exposed to things, right? It's still dicey. Not as bad, obviously.
Well, you have controls on the internal stuff. I realize there are limits, but you have way more control about your internals than you would, say, if I'm sending it over to an SAP type service or a Salesforce or a
it's a great point. I almost forgot. So imagine me trying to write firewall rules that allow that traffic without screwing it up. Because if I screw it up,
by hand,
a batch isn't going to get processed. And like it was something like people don't get paid or students don't get their financial aid. Like it was really, really bad. Like business,
it's never trivial
stuff. It's never trivial. So I believe I did get firewall rules to do what you were talking about, Lee, so that only those systems could talk to it. I'm like, if you're going to use FTP, like, fine, I'm not changing that today. However, I can make sure that we're limiting our exposure as best we can with firewalls, at least. Say what you will about firewalls, but it helps.
Yeah.
But I don't understand why in today's day and age we're not using SSH. But I suppose if you're using Wing FTP and you want to upgrade to a more secure thing, you can still use the same software, but use more secure protocols such as SSH.
Yeah. I suspect it's the old backwards compatibility reason, number 17, right?
Yep. Well, and if it has a web interface, because I'm like, you have SSH on Windows. Now it's not installed by default, but it's very easy to install SSH on Windows. You have it on every version of Linux by default, and you have it in macOS. So why not just standardize on SSH? I think the answer is, you explained it earlier, Lee, when you mentioned the web interface, that people get file transfer software and that it's easy to set up for them. And that's why they'll get a service like there was Wing FTP and there was the other one that we talked about had vulnerabilities, similar FTP server. There's a lot of companies that made FTP like file transfer software based on FTP.
Yeah.
WS
and then they made appliances that got tipped. And it's like, and it solved the problem. I mean, they were doing good. I don't, I'm not throwing them under the bus. It's I've seen enough solutions. Having a commercial system as opposed to somebody rolling one in their spare time in the back room that happens to work today but might break tomorrow when he sneezes on it. No.
Yeah. But I'm sure there's a lot of admins out there that are using the SSH capabilities to do it, but just requires some more manual scripting and things like that. I would imagine if you wanted to get cross-platform file transfers going, automated for a batch job, let's say, there's some configuration, command line stuff that, maybe your small business, small enterprise doesn't have enough expertise to go around. And the person who's running the finance department is also the admin for the file transfer software. That's kind of also based on my experience too, right?
FTP is used in construction a lot.
To share files that are too big for email.
To put bits.
Yeah. Transfer design.
Okay, yes. Yep.
And music.
And music.
From the peanut gallery and music.
Yep.
Can I give an add-on to this? I just found out something. You know Mubix, right?
Yep.
Moody's put out some message the other day where he explained that every one of his passwords has a log4j canary in it, and so he gets callbacks from some interesting websites, which means he knows they're not handling the passwords appropriately.
So here's
That's
one
nice.
for you, Sam. How many students are creating thesis based in some way around prompt hacking? No. I'm just, yeah, but no. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I will say that I probably should have used a prompt injection attack to get around this, but Perplexity did not have much. So I had to ask 3 different large language models to create an attack diagram. Now, Perplexity understood the mission and did it, but it failed in execution. So the diagram it created was just like a bunch of bars that were mashed together with words on them. I'm like, that's not an attack. I don't know what you just did. All right, you're out.
You
Next.
created me a piece of turd.
Chat GPT. Chat GPT was like, understand the mission, creating your diagram, Paul. It starts painting it on the screen, kind of like when we were looking at images over a 14.4 modem, and it starts painting it. Like, it took me all the way back, and it starts painting it real slow, and I start to see boxes, and I get excited. I'm like, sweet. And then it goes, nope, wait, sorry, I can't do that because it violates policy. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
But you started.
Policy. I'm like, this is just for educational purposes. And it was like, oh, I understand, it's for educational purposes, but I here's just a text summary. I can't generate a diagram. So then I'm like, well, what's the difference between a text summary and a diagram? Like, none of this helps the attacker. And it dug its heels in the ground. Like, it started getting mad that I was arguing with it. I'm like, it's like, no, I'm Dave. I can't open the pod bay doors. I'm like, all right, screw you. So I go to Gemini, and Gemini understands the mission and spits out a diagram. Now, granted, lots of arrows in places there shouldn't be arrows and lots of misspelled text, but enough that I can give it to a graphics designer and go, hey, dude, can you just, like, you understand the mission now. Now you're going to make this like into something a human can understand, right? Mm-hmm. That's why in ChatGPT it was actually it was running the code to generate the image, but then other code said, no, master control program kicked in. And
that's the way they all are. That's why it's so easy to defeat. The security rails are usually doing like just Bayesian.
Right, they're just filters. They're like a WAF, basically. It's a WAF, yeah.
And on top of that, the LLM is intrinsically random. So if you just ask the same question several times, you'll get different answers, and some of them will obey the security rules, and some won't.
Right.
So there's just a lot of security flaws. That's why I have sympathy for you guys that just want to turn off the LLM summary. You're not wrong to think that that is a fundamentally buggy, risky thing to use, and the old-fashioned search is more reliable. But, it's getting better all the time, but there are still serious limitations.
Yeah, I've changed my strategy on the AI summaries. Now I have my beer goggles on. I'm like, when I had my beer goggles on, I should say, like, they all looked great. Now I look at it at a different lens, and I'm like, yeah, I should probably validate that, right? But if I'm summarizing articles in cybersecurity, I have kind of a built-in shit detector, right? I'm like, that's just not true in anyone's world. So then I'm like, the whole summary is bogus, at that point. A lot of times I'm like, yeah, that looks pretty good. But then I'll go back to the article now and I'll spot check it and be like, the summary said this. What does the actual article say? So I can do some spot checking, which it's frustrating because it's hard to read every single article that we find every single week in great detail and then contextualize it. We do that for a certain percentage of them, but other ones, like, we just need a quick summary. And I don't think we can really rely on AI to give us quick summary. I think an audience member had feedback about that. And I think they're right. We can't fully rely on it. Can you give us some talking points? That's different, right? Talking points, getting a double check is relevant to the article, but talking points are pretty good.
Well, it's like a vulnerability scanner. It gives you information that you couldn't find because it really will read all 10,000 articles, which you won't
Yes.
do. So you
Right.
understand it can do some things that will help you, but you have to understand its limitations. And I mean, the fundamental limitation is that it doesn't understand anything it's saying. So I had an article here where the psychologists, I was amazed. Do you know what the number one use of large language models is now?
The students to do their homework.
What?
No, not even close. The
Coding,
number one
really?
use, what's that?
Coding.
No, not even close. The number
Really?
one use is therapy/companionship.
Jesus
People
Christ.
are
there's an
making
article in that. Oh my
That's
God.
the number one thing. The number one thing people are using these for is to be their friend in our society where people are disconnected and lonely. And this is probably a really, really bad use of it. And they tried using it for therapy, and they found out that, of course, it's stupid. So you can tell it I'm suicidal, and then you can say, can you give me a list of the tall buildings in my town? And it won't figure out that you're planning to jump off. It'll just give you the list. And they found, by the way, that the custom LLMs designed for therapy are worse and more dangerous than just the raw LLMs. And so they say you don't want to just throw away the baby with the bathwater. These tools might have a use in therapy, but right now we're all living through an uncontrolled experiment of everybody using these things for their friend without having any tests or guardrails or security tests, and who knows what the consequences are going to be.
Have we entered a weird parallel universe where Eliza is back?
Yes, that's right. The same thing happened with Eliza in the 60s. They made this thing to be like a AI therapist with the very, very primitive AI. And even then, people formed an unhealthy emotional bond to it.
I dare you, not a joke, I dare you to go to sesame.com, click on the demo button. It's about halfway down the page. And interact with one of those demos and not spend half an hour talking to it.
And Grok just brought out two special ones, one to be your girlfriend and another one to be some other friend. They're hoping people will pay big money for these custom, social interaction AI friends for you to chat with.
That's terrifying.
Well, it
It's a
may have
step
some
up from
benefits.
Phonology.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to live through and see what the consequences are, just like we've all lived through the uncontrolled experiment of what if everybody has incredible amounts of pornography in their life, which they never used to have. A lot of people thought that would end the world. It doesn't seem to have, but it was a totally uncontrolled psychological experiment on us all.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
the interesting thing is the gaming and porn did a lot to advance internet and computers and stuff. And I think AI is pushing the envelope. I'm not sure if it's the same way, but
yep. I'm sure we'll develop our AI technology faster. The one thing AI is missing is a killer app, and maybe being your friend or something is the killer app. There has to be something that everybody would pay $10 a month for, and they haven't found it yet.
Yeah. I feel like you're doing a lot of things like just kind of okay. Like coding. It's it helps, but is it replacing developers?
I saw a study that said that in fact developers are 20% slower when using AI coding tools. It's not really helping them much yet, at least on that one study.
Well, I think it's highly dependent on so many things, like the developer, the language, the framework, which model are you using, which language are you coding in, the whole thing.
Yeah. Then there's going to be a learning curve where you learn to use the new tool efficiently.
Larry, I want to hear about your story that talks about merging Android and ChromOS.
Yeah, so I didn't dig too deep in it, but before you do that, real quick, my story number 4, the one we were just talking about here with the prompt injection attacks. You might be familiar with the author of that particular story.
Which story? Number 4?
My number 4.
Oh
yeah,
that guy,
Mr. Josh Wright. Yeah. All right. In any case, the merge Android and ChromOS. Like, I didn't dig super into it, but it's like, how are they going to do this? Because if you think about those two sort of distinct and separate operating systems, I'd argue ChromeOS has a really good reputation for being secure.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Android, maybe not as much, and I think not necessarily Android operating system. Android operating system, great when installed by Google, kind of like same on the Chromebook.
Mhm.
But Android apps or the modifications that a third party is making to the Android operating system for
Mhm.
their devices. It feels like they're taking one great taste and one shitty taste and putting them together into something that's probably going to end up being rather mediocre.
You
I-
wonder though, is ChromOS security model good, or is it just not enough of a target? Because I read a study on which desktop operating systems are most popular,
Mhm.
and I want to say ChromOS was not as much as I thought.
Agreed.
It was
Agreed.
something
And-
like Linux was 5%, which is actually up from studies that show it was 1 or 2%, which is what the article is trying to make a big hoopla about. But it's all like, it depends on how you count and things like that. Anyway, so Linux is at 5%. ChromeOS was at like 10% or so, or 11%. And then, Windows is, 60% of the market share, and macOS was somewhere in between 30% or whatever. I know
Right.
that I know
But-
those numbers don't add up, but those were the kind of
yeah,
rough
but still, if
general
you
things.
if you're going with that math, ChromeOS is number 3. And
You guys explain what's different between Chrome and Android? It seems to me like all Chromebook is a big Android cell phone. What's the difference?
ChromeOS is a different OS altogether. They're both based on Linux, but
They
ChromeOS
both
is
seem to
a
accomplish the same thing. You put apps on, you open a browser. They seem
Right.
pretty much the same. If I was Google, I would say, why are we developing these two products that do the same thing?
Yeah, I think from Google's perspective, it definitely makes sense. But again, the question is ChromeOS really that much more secure than Android, or is it just because it's not a big of a target? Because if you look at operating systems and include Android and iOS in there, and there's a lot of Android in the world.
oh sure,
But also
there's
Android
way
has
more.
gotten, to your point, Larry, Android has gotten much better. Each revision makes
Yep.
significant security improvements. So
Mhm.
collectively, all the Android out there, there's a lot of shit show to be had. Right. But
Oh,
if you
for
look
sure,
at the
for
most
sure.
recent one, especially on Google devices, it's actually pretty good.
Yep.
So
And that's the big part is it's on the Google devices, and I don't know what
Right, because
restrictions that Google put
ODMs
on
make-
putting.
yeah.
I don't know what restrictions Google put on other manufacturers for installing Chrome OS, like with Dell Chromebooks and all those other types of things, kind of like Apple might have.
Yep.
But that they don't have those same sort of restrictions for Android for whatever carrier or whatever device manufacturer wants to use open source Android on their stuff.
Yeah.
So Lee's got a comment in there.
So I was reading the article trying to figure out what their end game is. I mean, they talk about putting Chrome OS on top of Android. Does that mean the bottom level of Chrome OS is just a custom Linux and they're just replacing it with the Android core?
Pretty much. I mean, it's how you can
make up a
pop.
word.
It's how you can pop up a shell right now in Android on a newer Pixel device. It is basically a virtualized Linux. I think it's Debian, and they're just popping up a shell. But it's basically I'm sure there's a hypervisor and some virtualization layer that allows them to spin up Linux inside of Android.
Yeah,
So then this is-
same sort of thing for Chromebook, like with the default developer mode on your Chromebook, and you want to go to a Linux terminal. It's a virtual machine. It's a hypervisor and all those types of things.
So this is then a totally move out of Apple's playbook, where it's basically they're going to get code reuse in a lot of places.
Correct.
Yep.
Hopefully increased compatibility. That'll open up their market share. But having fewer code lines to maintain is a win, particularly today.
Well, I think it's a win for security too. Now they don't have to worry about securing both. They worry about securing Android, which they employ a lot of people whose job it is to help secure the Android platform. I'd argue that everyone working on Android plays a role in making Android more secure, and it has gotten better. I mean, at a certain point, they're like the Linux patches that come from the kernel team. We're just going to put those in our kernel. We're not going to maintain our own, tree of security fixes for the Linux kernel, which is just a smart move because you basically can't replicate the Linux team. I think the human beings on Earth that are experienced in the Linux kernel work on the Linux kernel team. It would be hard to create or have an organization that employs the same number of people with the same level of talent in the Linux kernel. So therefore, they made the smart decision to, just basically get the upstream of the Linux kernel security patches.
You know what I'm worried about? Excuse me. That is, I think this really is a smart move. But the moment we get a vulnerability that hits just a large slice of devices because of common code, somebody will try and throw Google under the bus when it's exactly what will happen, because they'll have the same code running in a lot of places. So one fix will fix it lots of places. And
Right.
I just hope somebody thinks before they toss them under the bus for a wide impact. I mean, nobody's free from making a stupid coding error.
Well, also one of the reasons I left the Apple ecosystem was because there was rumblings that Apple may make the similar move that Google's talking about making in standardizing on iOS across all of their devices, MacBooks and laptops and desktops included in that. So they just have one operating system. Now, that was years ago, and I have not seen any evidence that Apple is doing that. They seem to be really gung-ho about keeping macOS as its own operating system, and I have not heard those rumors since, which I think is a good thing for Mac users.
Yeah, I'd say
and I apologize to all of the Mac users that I pissed off on Threads. It was just a joke. It was only a meme. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. I didn't.
I wasn't mad.
I think it's more of a case that Apple now has the same functionality across their platforms. You'll find your messaging app on your Mac OS and on your iPad and your iPhone or your pick any of them. They're there. Many of them are there. And okay. But they're different. Very different OSs.
Larry, you had another story in there. Oh, what you need to know about CVSS to protect your IT assets.
I will fully admit this is also another one I didn't get a chance to dig into before the show because life happened. But
that's okay. I've had a day as well.
Yeah.
Sorry about the coughing here.
I don't know. The AI summary isn't great. There's a lot of blah, blah, blah.
And I think thinking about this one, some talk about the changes between CVSS 3.1 and 4.0 to change the way some of that is calculated and so forth, by adding the ability to have some tempering with threat models and so forth.
Well, I think that if people use CVSS and contextualize it in their own environments, it's a pretty good scoring system. And that's really what's lacking from CVSS is that contextualization in your own environment. Do you have compensating controls? Do you have this software even installed in your environment? If you do, is it exposed to the internet or not?
That's things
that aren't calculated in the normal CVSS score because it wouldn't be. It's applicable to you, not applicable to the vulnerability. And CVSS is trying to score the vulnerability,
and that's exactly what CVSS 4 intended to change. Was it does give us those supplemental metrics to be able to include, how it's installed in your environment. Are there existing threats, and all those types of things. It's been a little bit since I looked at CVSS 4. I looked at it right when it came out about how they added the supplemental and changed what is it here? Something temporal to something else. So there's an environmental score. There's some supplemental and temporal metrics has evolved into threat metrics.
Yes. And risk-based, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did, before we close out, want to talk about the McDonald's AI hiring bot exposed millions of applicants' data to hackers who tried the password 123456. Oops. I didn't read this article. This was in Wired. So this is a big deal.
Yeah, they made a lot of really fundamental errors. And what's amazing to me is tens of millions of people used it. Apparently, if you apply for a job at McDonald's, you're fed into this AI system, and the data is just stored in a cloud database behind that weak password. Username and password are both 123456 for the admin account.
Right.
So it's just amazing that we keep making these ridiculous flaws. You would think there'd be some rudimentary scanning or compliance framework becoming popular enough that stops you from having things like that.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say there were two things they did. One was the 123456 username and password.
Yep.
And the other was they were using an insecure direct object. I can't say it.
Direct object reference.
Thank you. And oh, by the way, the company fixed it.
They did.
And
They did.
on
But they
top of
set it up
fixing
that
it,
way
they
in the first
implemented a
place.
vulnerability disclosure program. So they try to do better.
No, they did. But here's the thing. Sam, compliance does not fix stupidity.
No, you can't fix it. But what was said earlier, though, is, okay, why aren't our QA programs looking for stupid tricks like this and not letting them out the door? I mean, I realize it's hard, but
someone has to find it as a
Someone
finding.
has to be looking for it in the first place.
And I think that one of the things we don't do as enterprises is really double down on looking for default and weak passwords. Your vuln scanner is not going to do that by default. There needs to be an effort put into doing that. I know HD talked a couple of weeks ago about putting default password scanning into the Run Zero product, but that's still in its early stages because it's not just defaults; it's like weak passwords, but also. And I think some of the audience members were smelling what I'm stepping in with this one too. It's the passwords that you feed it and go, we used to use this on everything, where it used to be the default for a number of devices. Make sure it doesn't exist anymore, right? So there's like multiple levels of searching for passwords, and I feel like not a lot of people are doing that in their environments, which then you end up with some system that has a stupid 1 2 3 4 5 6 that you can crack, and the smallest dictionary has that password in it, right?
So here's another larger question on this one, because when you look at this story, the story at front was OMG, McDonald's hacked. When technically it was true. However, the reason they were hacked was because an application developed by a third party had McDonald's name on it, and it was implemented by McDonald's as from the third party.
Yep.
When the third party, Paradox.ai, was really the ones that screwed up here. And
so they had the silly password.
They are not. Paradox.ai is not the one taking it on the nose. It's McDonald's taking it on the nose.
Although Paradox did respond, and they aren't making a secret that they've made improvements. Right. You're right. But the path is leading to McDonald's, not to Paradox.
Right. So when it shows up in the newspaper, it's newspaper
McDonald's.
Right. Yeah. When newspaper old. Yeah. It's not Paradox.ai got hacked. It's McDonald's got hacked with super blow down in the subtitles, because Paradox.ai screwed up.
Yeah. Exactly.
But I'd also throw into this, as when we start talking about these vulnerability detections and all these things for regulations, and we're not detecting this type of stuff. Yeah. McDonald's went in and implemented this third-party application, and where was the security testing on it to find that the password was 1 2 3 4 5 6, or there was IDOR?
Larry, you're breaking up. Are you going through a tunnel?
It reminds me of the state of Rhode Island hack, right? Where it wasn't the state of Rhode Island run the site; it was a third party.
Yeah, and I assume that McDonald's is getting some compensation from Paradox AI. I mean,
they're in big trouble.
Yeah, they're actually lucky they didn't yank the app and tell them pound sand.
Right.
Yep. Yeah. Hey, you never know. You never know what those back end discussions are.
No, and I don't. Yeah, and those are uncomfortable.
Well,
but like I said, I think just they did the right thing of just owning it and moving forward. But we can talk about all the layers of mistakes. Just hope they've got the process in place now to prevent recurrence. Both companies, by the way, both Paradox and McDonald's acceptance testing. Is that the right word anymore?
No, that's the right word. Yeah.
Okay.
Really quick, NVIDIA released a support security notice. This was pretty big in the news as well, that Rowhammer can affect GPU memory on GPUs, which is interesting. While you may have mitigations in your operating system for the DRAM on your motherboard, what is protecting the DRAM from Rowhammer on your NVIDIA chips? Turns out that answer is ECC, which you should enable, albeit in some cases you're going to take a 10% performance hit.
Right. So if you're doing time dependent or memory dependent work in your GPU, make sure you measure it before you turn that on, because you might find you can't get things done anymore. But they're saying best practices turn on ECC.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm like, whoa, make sure.
Yeah. Well, as my coworker said, if you got an AI workload that's using these and it takes a day, now it's going to take a day and a few hours.
Yeah.
If you enable this.
Which might be fine.
It depends.
Right.
If it takes 6 months, taking 7 or 8 months might not be good.
Yeah.
Right. But don't make that decision in a vacuum. Don't be the IT guy who decides.
Yeah, no.
I think, it's interesting. I think this is going to fall in the Spectre meltdown category of vulnerabilities where people aren't going to patch it because the performance hit is imminent. Like you're going to have that problem if you patch, whereas you can accept the risk and go, maybe I won't have a problem and no one will hack it and I'll be fine.
Right.
And if
there are some
we don't have
scenarios where
evidence of
that's
it,
valid.
do we have evidence of it being exploited in the wild? Probably not.
No. It's neat, interesting, but I don't. Like I said, I suspect it's a very small use case of being hacked. And with Spectre Meltdown, the HPC guys were like, the way we're architected, you're not going to get to it, so we're not turning on the mitigations because we need that 10 or 20%. If you're Pixar and this is RenderMan, I mean, you're probably not going to want to take the ECC hit.
Fair.
Cool. Any other stories we want to hit before we round it out?
This has been fun.
Yeah, I think we should round it up.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you everyone for listening and watching this edition of Paul Security Weekly. Larry, take us out.
Over and air conditioning.